Welcome to Permission to Evolve. I'm your host, Brandon Thielk. I'm a performance and life coach. I'm joined by my co-host and producer, Holly Deschenes. So today we're starting to head into Christmas or the holidays, whatever you want to call it, and then New Year's. And so, the past couple of weeks we've been talking about first slowing down. So we're trying to bring awareness to our patterns and we're trying to redirect them in a new direction. And then last week was permission to be still. And that's about spending some time with yourself and getting clear on what you want. And so today we're going to be talking about the permission to create. So these are progressions. If you've been listening, we're talking about basically you got to start to slow down those patterns, stop them, and then redirect them in a new direction. And so we're going to be kind of talking about those mechanics. And it starts with a vision. It starts with getting clear on some general ideas of the direction you want to move to. But, the timepiece is one of the most difficult things when we try to create a new change in our life. We want things to happen faster than they normally do. This is really just about aligning with the process and finding ways to create momentum and feel good about the direction you're headed. And, we're going to talk about some of the challenges that might surface in that process. Holly, as we get going here, is there anything that comes to mind right off the bat?
When I think about creation and like the permission to create things for me personally, and we talked about this a little earlier, it's the bringing it out of the imaginative state into reality. And that's maybe the step that's hardest for me
Yeah.
personally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's it. We're trying to take something that's not real and make it real eventually. Everything starts first as thoughts. We first think about it, and then we kind of follow this path to try and get a little bit deeper into, okay, what steps do I need to take? What actions would align with this? Is there some new knowledge or skills that I need in order to accomplish this thing? And so, the big initial parts of it are very mental. It's trying to conceptualize what's the best plan of action here. As we start to get more familiar with whatever it is we're trying to accomplish, as we talk about a lot here, we're confronted with our past. We're confronted with what we've already created. So it's the accumulation of our past has added up to now. We have all these habits and behaviors and beliefs attached to that. If I'm setting off on a new path, that's probably going to be in conflict with what I've already created. And that's why we have to, we talked a little bit earlier today, but it's actually a destruction process. I have to tear down some walls. I have to rebuild. It's about taking inventory of the things that we want to change. And it's like, okay, like I can't exist in the same manner. I either have to let this go or I have to shift it to align with this new thing. And so I'm basically rewiring my nervous system and the way I think about it. And everything starts off very general. Okay. It's like, I have this idea and there's excitement behind it, and the details aren't very clear yet. That's where I have to dig a little bit. I have to start to spend some of my time, energy, and focus on it to start to build and conceptualize, like, yeah, what are the details of making this happen? We often talk, it's like, okay, if there's somebody that's accomplished what you want to accomplish, it's helpful to get familiar with what that path was for them, because there's going to be some commonalities. You always have your own individual path, but there's going to be some starting points that we can start to identify of, like, how can I start to feed some energy into this thing I'm trying to create? So everything starts off as just this energy, and it's like fast moving, and we're just trying to basically tighten it up so that it becomes something actually tangible. It's concrete. And then when we look at the structures of our life, that's kind of what's happened. It's like starts with an idea. Okay, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to put some action behind it, and that's what has made your life, is like the things you can count on. We talk about this. The external is a mirror of what's going on internally, and so what I can count on, what I view as concrete and tangible, that's like got beliefs like hardwired into my system that support that. Okay, so there's literally like these pathways in our body that are wired towards what we've created so far. If I'm going to make adjustments to that, that's that process of questioning your current reality. What would I like to be different? What would I like to improve? Are there workable pieces here, or do I need like massive change? Okay, and if it's massive change, that's just going to be more of an extended timeline. That's going to take rewiring a lot of pieces. And so we're just trying to get our beliefs in alignment with what we're trying to accomplish. And that's a journey we go on. Okay. It's not an overnight process. We have to remake our reality. And so that means I need to be letting go of things. I need to be questioning my thought process and my beliefs. I need to be behaving differently. And, they always talk about, okay, like what type of person do you want to become? And then start to act that way, and there's a lot of truth to that. It's not really fake it till you make it. It's more of just like, I'm starting to get more familiar with what it's going to take to accomplish this thing. That's going to be a gradual process of me trying to embody certain principles and ideas that are going to allow this thing to really take shape. So yeah, it does start in the imagination. It starts as a thought. Those thoughts grow into ideas, and then those ideas, now I'm taking it further, maybe talking to other people about it, trying to see if somebody can help me with it, or what actions can I take to start to get further down the road here. And with each step we take, we're going to be faced with the past things that are in conflict with it. So that means I don't believe this is possible for me, and this is why. Or I'm not good enough to achieve something like that. Or I'm not worthy enough. It's those things that stop us. And our nervous system and our mind, it's wired for our safety, and it likes the consistency. We want that continuity of like, I know what to expect. And a lot of what we talk about here is this being uncomfortable. That's basically that access point to change. That's your nervous system signaling like, hey, like, I'm not sure about this. I got hurt that one time. I have this pain, I have this disappointment, I have this letdown, and I don't want that to happen again. And so we have to really earn our nervous system's trust to get on board with new things. And so if it's something that's vastly different than my current reality, that falls into the realm of identity work, right? Where I'm like having to change big parts of myself in order to align with that. And it could be, I might be making changes that are, maybe I'm on a career path, but I'm going to do something like similar to that. Like that's a change, but it's not like a massive change. So that we can wrap our mind around that a little bit better, and it's easier to believe that that's possible for us. But if there's nothing in me that has created something like that before, or has experienced things like that before, well, then it's like my first step is to be like, well, I need to get familiar with it. So I need to go get some experiences in relationship to that thing. And so this applies to everything. A new business, forming a new relationship with a person. You have to get to know that person on increasingly deeper levels to build a relationship. It's knowing that these things aren't overnight, and it is a bit of a process, and it's our ability to stick with things. It's our ability to work through the challenges, which are representative of our beliefs. So I'm in conflict with something, and that's what's going to create the negative emotion. That's going to create stress of like, I don't believe it's possible because it hasn't happened yet. So much of the creation process is feeling good about the progress you're making, feeling good that this is something I really want, and supporting it with actions. Then we start to really trust ourselves as well. And when we start to catch a rhythm and we start to see a pathway to what we want, we start to also care less and less about what other people think. Okay. And so early on in the process, because I have that connection to it now, if I've like built a foundation and I'm putting in the work and I'm starting to see results, now it matters less and less what other people are saying about it. But early on in the process, the opinions of others can be one of the big things that derails us or really shuts us down immediately. Okay. Because they're going to be sharing their input about what they believe is possible, but it's from their past. It's from what they've created in their lives. That could be painful. That could come across as like, people, close friends or loved ones that, you feel judged by, and that plugs us into not feeling good enough, or there's something wrong with me. And so as we're like veering off into this other path, that's kind of a natural part of it is it whatever we open our dream up to, we're exposing it to these different personalities. That's what I kind of call the gauntlet. People are like seeing what I'm doing, and then they're making judgments about it based on their experience. And sometimes that's hurtful. Sometimes that's painful. And it also like pokes at the parts of me that doesn't quite believe it's possible for me yet. Okay. So rather than building momentum and working towards it, I feel like every step I take, I'm like having to battle for it, because like I'm really wrestling with myself. I'm I'm really trying to loosen these ideas of what I've created in my life. And I'm trying to form a bridge to this new thing. And the thing is, if what I've created is very rooted in safety, you know, let's say I've had that tough childhood that we always talk about, and I've had to protect myself a lot, and my mind's hyper vigilant, so I'm always like scanning my environment for problems. Basically, that's that tension. We're pushing against the tension, and then your nervous system's like checking in with you, like, hey, are we safe to do this? Are we safe to take these steps? And that's really that resistance that we need to align with what we want. And so that's I need to disprove my current reality. I need to start to tear down some of these ideas so that I can move into this new thing. As long as I have the unworthiness in play, that's going to be fighting me every step of the way, because it's not operating from my power to create. It's more of operating from like a little bit of the victimhood of like circumstances just happened to me and there's nothing I can do about it. We have to really start to work on that relationship with ourselves to really create that space to take some new steps with self-compassion. It's knowing that you're not going to do it perfect, knowing that you're going to make mistakes, knowing that there are going to be challenges. And it's our ability to just continually reconnect to the vision. I need to keep putting energy into it. I need to keep cleaning up my thought process about it. I want to get to the point where I feel really good about what I've got going on, because that's what sustains the momentum. But if it feels like a battle every step of the way, okay, well, yeah, I need to be more conscious of who I'm sharing it with. I really need to be dialed into what things in my life are blocking it or holding it back. And I need to ask those tough questions, like, what needs to change here? And am I willing to let those go? Am I willing to change this piece? A lot of the things we cling to, it's just what really helped us at an earlier stage of life. It was like, hey, this I don't want to let this go because this really helped me, or this really helped me feel safe during these tough times. We almost believe that's part of us, right? And so it's kind of seeing that our inability to move forward is often like I'm clinging to safety in some way. And we really have to get into the flow of this, believing in my ability to create new things. But it's building the self-belief, having the compassion that it's not going to go perfect, and I just need to continually show up. The consistency piece is I want to continually feed energy into whatever I'm trying to accomplish, because when I put energy into it, that's me starting to trust myself. That's like me having faith of like, oh, I know I'm putting in the work, like, and I have to trust that eventually that's going to pay off.
I want to talk about that more, but before we go into that deeper, so I'm hearing you say in the tearing down, some of this is tearing down your own like internal belief systems and the good enough and the whatever. But let's talk a little bit more about that. Because we talk about that a lot. It's the unlearning, the undoing, the finding your way back to yourself, all of that. But in the tearing down, letting go of those identities, there might be some things in your life, right? Some that have to change in order for you to create the thing you really want. Besides the personal stuff.
It might mean ending some relationships. It might mean reorganizing your life. It might mean like downsizing in certain ways. It's just like, and that's why usually whatever change we're making, we have to really want it. We have to be serious about it, because it has to be powerful enough that I'm actually going to take a deeper look at things and figure out what's got to go, or what's got to shift, or what do I need to loosen my grip on. And so that's the thing, is that we really have to reorganize a lot of things if we're going to make a big change. Okay. But like I said, the smaller ones, it doesn't take as much. And so that's the thing, is if you have big goals and big dreams, that requires a lot of energy. That requires that to be your top priority. I need to build my life around that. Okay. So whatever I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create the environment that this thing can exist. So what do I need to do? I'm trying to create this support system so that I actually have this lane where I can continuously put energy into something. We could even be talking about like, oh, I'm going to start working out in the new year, and I'm not working out at all right now. That doesn't mean you go like, okay, I have to go to the gym 7 days a week for 2 hours a day, because that's not going to work. In the context of your life, what adjustments do I need to make in order to create space for this thing I want? And that could be big things, that could be small things, but it's generally a direct relationship. If it's vastly different from current reality, okay, well, like I need to make quite a few adjustments to line up with that. But if it's just like I'm trying to really focus on this specific area and make it better, so I need to create pockets of time for that. I need to, okay, yeah, where am I wasting my time? Where do I get easily distracted? Like, who are the people, relationships that pull me off track, or make me feel not good enough, or make me feel bad about what I'm trying to accomplish. It's cleaning up your energy around it. It's just saying like, okay, yeah, this is an opposition to it. So what adjustment do I need to make to protect what I'm trying to accomplish? And also, what adjustments do I need to make to create space for it? That's the destruction piece, is like what's got to go so that some new energy can flow into my life. Okay. They always say like spring cleaning and things like that. People like go through their closet and get rid of a bunch of stuff, and you're basically making space for like new things, right? New energy. You're trying to get some new flow going. And so that means letting go of some of the old stuff that you don't really, that's like dead to you basically. At one point it might have been, you might have liked that shirt, or but it's probably like old and worn out now. So it's like, okay, well, it's time for a new shirt. And so we got to get rid of the old one for the new one. Or we could just hoard everything, but that's another thing. That really stagnates the energy. Like when we have clutter, when we have all this, when there's no room in our life for new things, where are we going to put it? That's saying it's about reorganizing. It's about creating space for things. And some of the things, it might be tough. It might be like you might be really attached to something, or it might be, this pattern's really kept me safe, or it's, a lot of like relationships, people stay in them. This could be friendships or romantic relationships where they like stay in them because it's like, well, at least I have somebody, right? Because they fear being alone. That's lowering our standard, right? It's like I can't create a new relationship if I'm just like settling in this area. It's about taking inventory about what needs to change. And sometimes it takes some like honest truth with yourself, or like, yeah, this is like in direct opposition with what I want. Like, why can't I let it go? Why can't I move through it? Because as long as we're hanging on to that, it's not freeing us up so that we can put our energy into the new thing. When we're making changes, our mind automatically jumps to worst case scenarios. Like it thinks like all or none. It doesn't know the middle ground. It thinks like, oh, if this is out of my life, it's like the end of the world, or this is a bad thing. It is just kind of trusting that like, hey, it's going to be okay. Like it's most things aren't that big a deal. It's knowing when our mind switches to that all or none, that, okay, I'm in a stress and I'm probably projecting false beliefs into the new thing as well. Like, hey, this is only going to lead to bad things, rather than, that's just my mind trying to keep things the same. It's trying to prevent me from taking the steps because it wants the safety and security and to be comfortable. Okay. So that's where we have to sit with it, is like, is this true? Is this really the end of the world if I stop doing this, or if I let this person go? Or, it's like I need to learn to be okay with things, and I need to learn to trust that there's new things coming, right? And that's saying is like, we'd rather have the thing and then the new thing come in at the same time, and it doesn't really work that way. Usually we have to detach, and then the new thing can pop in.
Oh, that smooth transition, that would be really great.
But it can be like a gentle shedding of things, and then a gentle like bringing things in.
Yes.
It can
Yes.
be a smooth transition. And that's what we call like being up to speed with yourself, of like, yeah, when it's time to let go of that thing, it's not even a big deal because I've done the work to detach from it. Right. Is like, oh, I've actually kind of already started to create these new concepts in my mind where I'm trusting that I know what I'm doing over here. So now I'm not as attached to that. And so that's part of that process. Like, as I take forward steps, I start to familiarize myself and gain confidence in what the path will be. And it starts to be more clear to me. And so in that place, I start to feel safer to let go of some of the other stuff. That's the ideal really transition, is like as I'm building, I'm letting go. As I'm building, I'm letting go more. Right. And it's in, you know, direct relationship, you had the similar magnitude. It's, if I just like cut everybody out of my life and now there's like this open space, it's just like, well, what am I going to do with that space? Right. That's overwhelming. But if I slowly shed things and then slowly reach for more, that generally feels a lot safer to most people. Some people do hit the breaking point where they're just like, I can't do any of it anymore. I'm going to make dramatic shifts. And that's where they like go disappear for 6 months and like rebuild themselves. But, that is going through really intense emotions. And, you're basically just when you cut things off, now I have all this extra space to like sit with myself, and that might be scary. So there's, the easy, medium, and hard versions of this. The hard version might be necessary if you've been lying to yourself for a very long time and you've just been stringing things along and you're not happy with anything. Rather than continually making adjustments in a pace that's like manageable, that's generally the smoother road. But there's some things in life where there's like, okay, I've been living a life so long that I can't do it anymore. I just have to drop it all and then figure it out. And that certainly happens.
In the spirit of things that people may want to create, I mean, we can use this podcast, we can use the other podcast I work on as an example if we want to talk through something that's real life. But I'm looking for us to have kind of a conversation around some real life things of like people want to create. A relationship is a great example also to talk through. I think people really love to learn more about how they create better relationships. So maybe that's an example we want to run with. But I'm just thinking, let's talk through like we're creating this space to create something new, whatever that is. Let's just walk through a couple options.
I'll go down the road with a few things here. So yeah, one, if we want to talk about this podcast. So it's been about a year now. We've been doing it. It was like probably 2-3 months before we started, and we had like started to talk about it, being like, hey, or, should we do this? And then we started practicing, right? Where we didn't like post any of those. And so it's just, yeah, let's just try it out. Let's see what happens. And then, we got a few practice runs under our belt, and then it's just like, okay, yeah, let's just like throw it out there now. If we went from one day just being like, let's start a podcast, and then we like started the next day, and then we're like going to be posting all that stuff that next day, that's a different path, right? It's just like, there's a smoother way, and then there's a like, let's shock the system way. But as you do it, I want to do it in a way that's sustainable for me in the context of my life. So yeah, we talk about it. We throw ideas out there. What are we going to call it? What are we going to talk about? That kind of thing. Try some out. And that's just like, okay, yeah, this is good enough. Let's start rolling with it. And then, now that we're rolling with it, it's just like little adjustments here and there that, hey, like maybe we should do this differently, that kind of thing. But really it's the consistency of, we do it every Friday, just show up, let's talk for an hour. And so through that consistency, that's a pace that's like not scary. I feel like I'm getting better all the time. Like you're getting better all the time at editing and, helping co-hosts and all those things. That's where it can stay fun. It's kind of cool we would have outlines for a while, right? Where it's like, hey, these are the things, bullet points of what we're going to talk about. Now we don't even do that at all, right? It's like, it's got this like kind of fun, what's going to happen? What am I going to talk about thing going on? That's that playful energy. That's creation. It's like, we're not taking it too serious. It's giving it the runway to build some momentum where we can keep working at it, keep refining things, keep tightening things up. And then, eventually you come up with like a recipe of like, okay, this is exactly how we do it. And that's all tightened up. And now I have something that's, a higher production, right? Where this is what we do every time. And it's more impactful because of all the adjustments and all the refinements. And that's one version of it. With my coaching business, it's like, okay, I was a baseball player, and then I'm like, I'll work with baseball players. That just veering off the path slightly. It's not a big dramatic shift change. It was already in alignment with, I've already been doing all this like work on myself. I've already, been advising other people. So it's just like, okay, well, I can do this. This isn't a huge leap. But, if it's like, when I go to start coaching, if I'm like, okay, I'm going to go work with Fortune 500 executives only. Okay. Well, that's a huge mismatch, right? So now that's a massive journey to like get there, to be up to speed with that idea, because like, it's something I've never done before. In the vision, I want to do corporate. I want to work with executives. Right. And that's like happening now. And it happened like very naturally. So it was just baseball players for a while. And then I'm like, okay, I want other athletes. It's still the same realm. So that's pretty easy to make those jumps. And then it started to be, business professionals, things like that, some like lawyers and doctors. And then it's just like, okay, now it's like corporate. So it's these transitions where it's just like, you just keep following the path and every step of the way, you're like refining yourself, you're tightening things up, you're getting more dialed in. As you get better at something, it's easier to see how it could add up to the bigger things. You just need to get the momentum going. And for most things, you start small, you start with what you know. And it's like, okay, well, like I'm going to start to channel that based on my skill sets, I'm going to start to channel it in this direction. And then that leads you down a path. And every step of the way, you have clarifying moments. You're like, okay, it hit a point where I'm like, I'm so sick of baseball, I don't even want to look at it anymore. I'm done with that. And then I'm going off into this. That's like being in tune with like, I'm not enjoying this. So I need to shift it in a way that it's more enjoyable to me. And so that's kind of led to the different transitions I've taken. With relationship, if you're trying to, get into dating and you haven't dated in a while, and I work with a few clients on this, but it's like, well, yeah, if you just kind of sit at home and you feel all alone and that's your dominant feeling, it's going to feel impossible to get out there. It's going to feel impossible to create something from that place. I need to start to pay attention to what I'm feeling more. I need to start to work through it and be like, well, yeah, this is in direct opposition with what I want. So I can't really believe those things anymore. I have to start to open the door to new ideas and I have to get some new energy flowing. So I have to start taking steps in that direction. Yeah, download some dating apps, go out more, try to engage in more conversations. You don't put all the pressure on yourself of like, okay, I need to find somebody tomorrow. You build up to it. I'm taking small steps, and with every win, I gain more confidence. With every win, I start to see it's more possible that these steps I'm taking might add up to what I'm trying to accomplish here. That's generally the best way for most people is to build into it, to start slow. As we're moving into the new year, this is like really important information to be like, don't try to change everything dramatically overnight because you're going to get hit with a train. Your mind can only handle one or two things at a time. Okay. Because any change I'm making, I'm in the conscious mind. The more I focus on, the less brain power I have. And then I get plugged into habits, which just pull me back into the past. It pulls me back into what I normally do. I make one small change. I get my feet under me. I start to feel better about that. And then I'm increasing my capacity to move in that direction now. So I just keep building. I keep adding more time at the gym. I go more often. You build into it so that it starts to just feel like a natural, smooth transition rather than an all at once thing. And so when we try to change too much too fast, our nervous system gives us the backlash of like, hey, this is my life. Like, you haven't done any of this. There's nothing to support it. And so that's where we're trying to use willpower to override things. But as soon as I have a lot of stress in my life and, big emotions come up, like the patterns are what win. And what I believe about myself is what wins too. So we act on our beliefs. I can't run from that stuff. I have to take a look at it and I have to make adjustments to it. And a lot of our beliefs are formed in pain to keep us safe. So that's where we have all or none thinking. It's that binary thinking of good and bad. It's either this or that. When we're trying to get some momentum going, we have to expand our mind. We have to be able to see things in a flexible manner where it's like, I give myself permission to try things out. I give myself permission to be wrong, to make adjustments, to make mistakes. And it's just like, that doesn't have to stop me. It's not going to feel good. That's showing me the next step. That's showing me the next thing that I have to overcome in order to keep building in that direction. It is an uncomfortable process. And if your life's overloaded with things already, you don't have the capacity to make the changes anyway, because there's not enough of that. Like the conscious process, it's very demanding of your energy. Like, I need to focus on this. I need to be conscious about the steps I'm taking because I haven't taken them before. It's kind of like you're wandering through the dark, just feeling your way through it. In the beginning, that's the thing. Is like if I'm already overloaded and stressed out, it's just like I don't have the focus to be able to stick with it. That's where we take inventory. What needs to change? What's not working? What are some small adjustments I can do to make room for this? And then as I get some momentum going, I might be creating more and more space the more I start to believe that I can make the change.
I think the trying to depend on willpower thing is important. So I'm glad you brought that up because that only will get you so far in anything. Also with the creation, trying to figure out how to phrase this. I think where I was going with that, when you were listing all of the like permissions that you need to give yourself. It's also the permission to suck,
Mhm.
right? Like you need to give yourself permission to be bad at whatever the thing is that you're trying to create. I think there are a lot of hangups for people about that. There's a lot of memes lately where it's like, I want to start this thing, but if I'm not perfect at it the first try, then immediately the backlash I give myself is I'm never doing it again because it sucks and I suck.
Mhm.
There is like a big part of it that's like overcoming that part of it. So I think let's go back to that a little bit more.
Yeah, it's our insecurities. If I don't have the data for something, that's technically a weakness. I've nothing to pull from. Anything we do for the first time is awkward. Like a baby doesn't just like start walking immediately and it's perfect, right? It's like you have to fall a bunch of times. That's a great example. That's how most things are. The only way it's easier is once again, it's like if it's like a parallel thing to what you're already doing, where it's just like, oh, it's easy to bridge that gap because I know how to do this. I know how to do this basically. Right. And that's why, super athletic people, they just know how their body moves. Right. So they can like pick up different sports and it's not a big deal. Right. So it's those ideas. It's like, well, if this change is like something I don't have experience with, that is going to be awkward. And that's that putting yourself out there piece of like, well, I could just read a bunch of books and watch podcasts and I can do all those things. But if I'm not taking any steps, like nothing's ever going to happen. I might do that stuff initially to try and grasp whatever it is, but the only way I learn anything is by trying to experience it. So I have to go out in the world and get some reps. And that's why, like groups are important. It's a big thing in personal development, right? Or it's like, hey, we're all wanting to make changes. And, there's some places you can go look stupid and it's like accepted and actually supported, right? So it's like finding something that's like safe to you. Some coaches will just like, if somebody's working on coach social skills, they'll have their clients like go out and like talk to 20 people a day, just cold. And that's like terrifying for most people, right? So there's the extreme exposure to it, or I can build into it, right? I'm gonna talk to 2 people today. And then next week I'll talk to 3. You just do it that way, which is like less scary. And we get less resistant to change that way. And so it's this ability to stumble, to fall. And like I said, the further you get down the path, like the less you care about what other people think. And that's because you've stuck with it long enough where you started to build that internal drive and motivation and confidence, where it doesn't really matter what anybody says now, because I've already been through the really tough part. All right. The tough part's the beginning, and where I feel awkward and insecure and uncomfortable all the time. But once you start to get a rhythm, it's just like I'm more likely to take the risk. Like it's like, yeah, if I fail, I just know I'll learn from it now, rather than it's going to be the end of the world. Our mind generally fears embarrassment. That's why people hate public speaking. It's like, what if I say the wrong thing and all those things? It can almost feel like death to be like embarrassed in front of a crowd. We want to hide, we want to disappear. And that's really what that's usually about. But like if we can overcome that fear, that allows us to move through life on our own terms, where I'm willing to like try new things, take risks. Eventually, because I'm not shaming myself so much, like I'm allowing myself to work through the problems, and that really accelerates my process if I can detach from that fear, right? Because it's just like none of us want to be the outcasts. We all want to be included in the group. Like it plays on all the like the high school themes basically. And so it's kind of coming to terms with that. If I'm going to let that drive my life, then I'll probably be playing small my whole life, and that's going to be unfulfilling. And so it is about taking risks. And then as there might be some like hurtful things said. I might feel embarrassed from time to time, but I'm like shifting my relationship to it, where I see that like that's the gateway to growth. That's the gateway to learning. That's the gateway to getting me on my path so that I can actually think this thing's possible for me. But if I immediately just give in to the fear and shut down, not only does that kill the dream, but then it actually prevents me from taking steps in the future, because I've built this up to be such a bad thing, that I'm not willing to put myself out there anymore. Okay. Because of that one time or a few times. And so it's this ability to like look stupid over and over again until you start to get your feet under you. And what that does is it really strengthens your internal conviction, right? If I can do things just because I want to, And that's my focus rather than trying to gain approval from other people. It's that internal switch that's so powerful that allows you to like move through, pretty much anything at a different pace than other people. If they need the validation, if they need the external support, those things can always be taken away from you at any moment. What you really can control is the effort you put forward, how you show up, your relationship to yourself. Like, do I really need to be so hard on myself? Do I need to beat up on myself every time I slip up or make a mistake? Or do I just see that as part of the process?
We've talked about a couple different times, we've talked about the time that it takes to work through this. How long do you expect some of these things to take? Like if somebody's like, okay, I'm going to do this, like what's a reasonable amount of time?
Oh, the way you speed up the process is through time, energy, and focus. So, how much am I engaged with it? Do I give it 10 minutes a day or do I give it multiple hours? Or, do I treat it like a job? It's our ability to engage with it, but then it's also this keeping the resistance out of that process. So, when I'm frustrated with it, I step away and I like clean up my mindset. And then I go back into it with a fresh mindset. Because if I'm bringing the struggles and my doubts and fears and then I'm going to work on it, it just gets harder and harder and it slows everything down. So it's my relationship to it is I want to keep it in a clean place and I want to keep it fun. I want to take the pressure off of it because the creative process is fun. If I take it too serious, that slows everything down. We think that, yeah, I need to be really serious to make this happen. But a lot of times it's like our mind expands when we're having fun with it. We start to see it different ways. We learn faster. Okay? It accelerates the process. It gets the energy moving. And that's the thing is like a lot of times we go all in on something and then make it super serious. And that sucks the fun out of it. And now it's just like, I don't even like doing it anymore. It's the energy I bring to it. That's the factor. Your resistance to it. So it's like, have I had some huge letdowns and disappointments? Have I had a lot of pain around this area? Have I failed and like left it in the place of a failure rather than a learning experience? So when I think about it, what stress comes up within me? What doubts do I have? What fears start to surface? All those things, that's resistance to me doing that work. Okay. I often have this when I like go to build a website or something like that, where I'm like, man, I like really hate this, but okay, I do a little bit and then I step back and I clear the resistance out. I try to get back into a healthy mindset. And then it's just like, okay, I go back to it. And I'm just trying to like increase my capacity to be able to sit there and focus on it because there's something within me that's like fighting it. I'm like fighting myself on some level. But that's the thing is it's continuously realigning with, I want to be in a resourceful state, which means I'm in at least a neutral state of mind where I'm present with it. And I'm not projecting negativity or my false beliefs onto it, right? I need to get those pieces to align so that I fight myself less and less over time. Okay. And so, if you haven't had any painful experiences around it, but you don't have a lot of work to do on that end, it's like, oh yeah, I can just have fun with it and it can build pretty rapidly there. But it's a lot of the times it's like a back and forth, especially if you've been through a lot of struggles and pain, our mind links certain things together. So if it's like I'm on a new career path or trying to create something in that way, I'm dealing with this realm of like what work means to me. Like, do I believe it has to be really hard? Do I believe it's a struggle? All those things. It's about the energy I'm bringing to it. And then also, okay, if that's not clean, that's going to make it slower. So it serves me to take the step back, shift my relationship to it, and then go to it with a clean place. And then when I'm in the flow, that's where like time escapes us, where we can just sit with something and knock it out because I'm not fighting myself. And that's why like practice is so important is it cleans up our relationship to it. I developed the discipline to just do it consistently and it gets easier and easier over time. And then that's how I really develop a skill is I don't even like question it anymore. There's like very little doubts involved. That's what I had to go through with the coaching process, as I started. I used to plan a lot. I used to write a bunch of things down and now it's just like I just step into it and trust myself. Okay. So it's just through the repetition, you gain that confidence where it really speeds up the process because we're not being confronted with all these doubts anymore. It's pretty clean and straightforward. And that's when things get really cool. That's when it all starts to speed up is when I'm in perfect alignment with it. My life supports it. I can just run with it and see where it leads. But we're trying to get to this place where we get some momentum going, where our life is set up in a way that this is like a distinct space we have for it. And that's based on the context of your life. So somebody that's just coming out of college or graduating high school and stuff, and their lives are less complex, they have like more time they can pour into something, right? It's just the context of your life is important, but I speed up the process by the time, energy, and focus I put into it. But then it's also, I want to show up consistently in a mental, emotional way that supports it as well. So if I have a lot of resistance within me, that slows the process down. And also, I can speed up the process by getting other people involved. So that's why coaching helps. That's why hiring an expert in whatever you're trying to accomplish, they know the things to look for. They know how to help. They know how to speed up the process for you. So that can greatly accelerate things because you're basically taking borrowed confidence from somebody that's already done it. Okay. So their confidence is so strong that they know exactly what to help you with. And that can really speed up the track. That's why it's worthwhile to invest in those things. You can always struggle alone and get there, but it's going to take longer because you have to do all the trial and error stuff. You have to figure everything out. But if you have somebody that can just tell you exactly what you need to do, and then you just make it your own, that'll really speed up the process for you. Going to the gym, that's what, like a trainer, that's really good, or a nutritionist. They know all the little hacks. They know how to get things to happen pretty rapidly, where it's all just preference. And sometimes those things are a worthwhile investment, especially if you're going to try and make a big change. It's really good to have support of somebody that's done it before.
100%. I'm a fan of hiring people into your team to help you get through things rather than trial and error. That's just me.
Cool.
On the ideas of permission to create, what are your top takeaways you would want people to have gotten out of the time today?
But yeah, I think just building off the last couple of weeks, it's important to get clear on what you want first. That takes slowing down, creating space and stillness to really start to align. And then once you do that, it's taking inventory of your life and figuring out what needs to change. Where are you going to find this new space for whatever it is you're trying to create? I would say definitely make it easy, take small steps, and also make it fun. We want it to be engaging. We want it to be something you want to grow with. So whatever that is, it's got to be sustainable. And so we don't want to bog it down with seriousness or like needing results too fast. We want to have fun with the process of it. If I'm focused on outcomes too early on in the process, it's going to feel impossible. I'm always going to feel disappointed because I don't feel like I'm moving fast enough. But then once again, like we talked about, the pace is really dictated by the context of your life and what you're willing to put into something. And if you have help and support to do so. And then it's also about your willingness to take a deeper look at yourself and get real with those internal conflicts or those limiting beliefs you have around that area, and the willingness to surrender those things. So yeah, once again, it's manageable, it's easy, it's fun, and it's something that you have enough motivation behind that you want to sustain in. The creation process is meant to be fun. Many of us try to rush it, put extra pressures on it, and that's what kills it. And then also you have to be willing to fail. You have to be willing to look stupid at times, but that's how you learn. There's not really escaping that. It's either we shrink down and live a small life, or we take some risks. We put ourselves out there in new ways. We get uncomfortable. And then when we go do those things, it's the ability to stick with it over time. That's what creates results. Nothing's a one-off. Nothing's oh yeah, I tried it and I failed, and so I'm never going to try it again, because you didn't really try because you only tried it once. It's the ability to try it, to get the data, and then you work on like, okay, how can I do it better next time? And you just keep doing that. It takes reflection of each experience to learn from it and grow from it. And so you rework things, and then you put yourself out there again. Pull that data in, try and work through things again, take a bigger step. It's the back and forth. But it's really that commitment to your future self, the person who you want to become. And that's just going to take some degree of consistency. And once again, based on the context of your life, start off in a very manageable way. And as you get momentum, then maybe start to clear out a bigger space for it once you start to gain some confidence with it.
That's great. I'm kind of hearing, I don't want to like end up on a rabbit hole since we're supposed to be ending this, but I'm kind of hearing as you talk through this, right? We almost need the like permission to endure as part of this as
Yeah,
well.
I mean,
So
you're really conquering yourself in this process. It's like I'm going from my my current existence and what I've created, and anytime I'm trying to divert to something new, there's going to be resistance there. There's going to be parts of my mind that's like doesn't quite know what that is, and it's my mind's going to try and keep me the same. So I almost have to push against it, start to understand what that is, and I want to create safety every step of the way so that my nervous system works with me rather than against me. Because if it's working against me, that's where I'm pulling from that willpower. And that's a finite resource. Basically, the more stress I have, the less willpower I have. So that's going to drain you, and you're not going to be able to sustain it long term.
for anybody who has made it to the end of the podcast, if they're curious about working with you or where to find you, let's talk through those places and that information.
If you're curious about this work, you can visit my website, brandonthielk.com, and schedule a 30-minute strategy session where I get a sense of what you've got going on and share how I can help you. Also, if you want to register for my newsletter, that's also on the website. So each Monday, I'll send out a recap for the week and some insights to think about. We're big on reflection prompts here and deepening your thought process. So I put some of those in there for you to kind of think throughout the week on, because that's really how we change, is we have to change our thinking. If you want to follow along on YouTube and Instagram at Brandon Thielk, post out there pretty regularly, and then TikTok is at bthielk. So like, share, subscribe, follow, all those good things. Pretty excited to move into 2026 with some more momentum here and get some new things going. So be on the lookout for that.
Super excited. I think 26 is going to be good. All the links for all the things Brandon just mentioned, as always, will be in the show notes or the description if you happen to be watching this on YouTube.
We'll see you next time.
Talk to you later,
Bye.
Brandon.